Let's go to the next example now. So in our previous program, we have already seen about how to pass the data through the props. Now let's pass something more complicated data, which I can say in the form of array. So in case if I want to pass the data in the form of array, how do I pass now? Let's say we have got const and I have a group of users associated with me. Okay, so I may have in form of array. So let's pass the array here. Okay, so here in my code, I say const user data equal to admin and manager and QA. So we have a total number of 3 records that are available with us. Okay, and now I would like to pass this data, user data, to my users. So how will I pass? In order to pass this data to my users, I have to say udata equal to, in curly braces we say user data. Now this data has passed to the users now. Now let me open the users. I remove this welcome to users and here I start with my curly braces. Now to get the data, I will say this dot props dot udata. Let me check if I have the same name. We have a udata. Now this udata, since I'm getting the form of array, so according to this ES6, we have a one inbuilt function available named called map, which helps you to iterate the data for you. And in this map, we pass some temporary variable name called USR. You can give any name. I'm passing this user, and then with this arrow function, we will pass this data further down to my another component name called user. So see how beautifully we are passing this data. So here we say user, and in this user we say u data equal to, here we are passing USR. So just understand, this map function is basically iterating the whatever data I'm receiving in the form of array and storing in one temporary variable name called USR, and that we are passing it to my another component name called user with this variable name called udata. And now this udata I will take it, okay, in my application below and iterate this data, the one which is being given here. So in my user, if I go here, I'll provide this dot props dot u data. Once again, you see this now, we're saying u data, and here we say this dot prop dot u data. Yeah, so now if you just see the outcome in your application somewhere, see, isn't it amazing? You're able to get the data right over here. So what you did it, once again, let me show you. In your application, you pass the data which is in the form of array, okay, to your main application, which is this, and furthermore you are passing this data to where? To this users. This users is retrieving the data in the form of udata, and further you are passing this data to the user. And here you get this props.user.map. This udata is actually what? The one which you are receiving it. Map, it will help you to iterate through, and you are passing this data to the user object. This, not a user object, in fact it's a user component. You are passing this data in the form of udata, and further you are iterating it using this. Quite easy, isn't it? So we are clear about the props now. Now my next idea which I would like to offer you is all about dealing with the events, because React deals with event beautifully. So in case if you would like to perform the events, what options you need to use it. So for such case, I would like to go to my add user, and here in my add user we want to offer some function which I would like to call. So here I just say add user. In this add user, I will add simple alert message, user is added. Okay, now this function I want to call it. So how will I call this function? This function which you've written is called add user, Okay, I want to offer some button in which I would like to invoke this. So here I'm calling some button. Inside this button I'm giving some event name. Suppose if I say add, and now in order to call this function we have to use the standard JavaScript event call on click equal to, using this curly braces we have to call add user. Now this add user is your function and you're calling it without round brackets, and that's it. So now when I go back to my browser and check the status right now, you see there's a one button. When I click, see there's an alert button is picked up automatically. Great. So we are now clear how to perform this user is added into my code. Okay. Once this feature is added, the next step will be how post this user is added. We want to apply the form based implementation because that is the independent button. So the moment if I apply a form tag here, let's say if I just use form tag and I wrap this form tag here, okay, and in this form tag if I just see my outcome the way it was working earlier, you see the add button is showing me this alert message as usual, but one thing you might have realized, your browser is also getting refreshed. You see this again, you see your browser is also getting refreshed. This is the situation which I would like to avoid, and that is a quite obvious because whenever you try to submit a form, the behavior by default the browser is to refresh, and that's where exactly we want to avoid. I want to say okay, let the form get submitted, but I don't want the browser to be get refresh. And how will I like to approach? It's quite simple. In order to apply this kind of behavior, okay, we want to use one e call event object. It's just a name. You can give anything, a, b, c, d, whatever you would like to give. And here we want to say e dot prevent. So this e dot prevent default means you're ultimately trying to say like prevent its default button behavior, which is nothing but a call form refresh. And if you say like this and check it again, not here, let's see if I have some images, nothing, leave it. So if I open up this and if I just go back to my browser and refresh it again, and now you see alert came, but there is no refresh. That's a beauty. So this is how you're trying to tell to prevent its default behavior, and that's how it is happening. Quite interesting, isn't it? So I have added this default behavior to my code. Now my next implementation is I want to pick up the user input. I would like to pick up the user input, and that value I would like to display in an alert message. So what I will do here in my form, I can use this statement like an on submit equal to, here the same option, add user, and I will remove it from this location. Okay, and I want to have one text box where username is added. So I'm saying input type equal to text, name equal to uname. That's it. So this is my text box, and this value I want to capture it. But let's see, in my text box it's looking like this. That's perfectly fine. I would like to capture the value, the one which I'm adding it here. So if I'm just adding it like this, I want to display it here in my alert message. So how are you going to be picking up the value from the text box on form submit? Easy. What you can do is here I can have one property name called const data equal to, here we are saying e dot target. It is a predefined property, target dot elements, e dot target dot elements dot option dot value, okay, dot, I'm calling this trim function, or else you can remove it. Let it be as it is, like this. So option is nothing but the name of the text box, which is right now uname, so I'm removing it to uname. So I'm saying e dot target dot element, that is a predefined, you cannot change this, followed by I'm picking up this property like a uname here, and dot value, through which I can capture the value and store into the data, and this value we are printing in my alert. So here if I say data, let's see my outcome. There we go. I can see this value is printed here. Awesome. So this is how you are dealing with events inside your application. Quite easy and interesting, isn't it? So that's the way how your application is designed for. Okay. So finally we are clear about how to deal with an event. Okay. And at the same time how to deal with my other type of props too. And you can go ahead and add as many number of properties as you want, but this is the basic way to deal with your events. Now, since we are clear with these events, I also want to add another component in which I would like to have some buttons, and I will be calling those buttons whenever I'm clicking it, and behind the scene I'll be having one function which will be respective to those buttons. Will be calling it as per my requirement. Okay, so this part is clear, and I'm sure here where we have a call welcome to user action admin, this I'm removing it, so just to keep my example more simple and easy. So here I'm having this call add user, that is fine. So footer.js, that is fine. Main app.js, that is also okay. User.js, user action, I'm removing this just to keep it simple. Users.js, that is also fine. Well, I may want to beautify my application too, because it looks pretty much basic, but in case if you want to add some attractive CSS to your existing code, you can certainly do so. And what are the options for this? It's quite simple. So in case if you want to beautify your code, so there's a one very popular library name called Bootstrap, which is available to us. So I can go to my library name called getbootstrap.com, and from here I can use whichever version I want. I come down here and you can see there's a call include via CDN. This is the simplified way of how you can include the libraries. Here in my index.html page, okay, under my head section I can add this library, and this library comes with so many ready-made, I can say components and the styles which you can use it and make your life more simple. And that's the magic of this. And the beautiful part of this application and libraries, it is a responsive web design library, RWD, which helps you to develop an application which can render according to the surrounding screen size. It's not like in basic CSS, it takes care about the responsiveness too, which is one of the most important aspect for any website development. So here, once I added under my head section, what I need to do is just go to my add user, and here if you see we have got div name and all. I can just add by saying class name equal to btn space btn hyphen primary. So if I add this button here, you will see there's some changes happens in my button color. Isn't it look amazing? Yes, because this color combination comes by default with your Bootstrap. So if you want to check what are the other options are available, you can go to this documentation. It's a beautiful documentation, and here we can check some of the components are available here, and inside this component is an option called buttons, and you can see some color schemes are already mentioned, like in secondary, primary, and all. So you can choose the color combination according to your own way. Like I have taken primary here. So in case if I want something else, I can use it like in suppose secondary here, or suppose if I want to add warning. So suppose if I say warning, so my application looks pretty much nice. And the same thing if I applicable for my text box also, I can do that. So suppose in case if I want to increase the size of my text box, I can attach class name equal to form hyphen control. It's a once again a predefined bootstrap class. You can see the text box has taken the complete length. However, you can change it to, you can also change the text box size to the minimal, but that is the way I'm telling you. We have a multiple options are available in which you can attach those behavior. Okay, so I'm sure we are understood and clear about what my application is really doing.